Good morning, everyone. We are here on board Beyond Capricorn Bering 2017, and we have the fantastic opportunity to talk with Captain Josh. So, Josh, today we are on board Bering Beyond Capricorn. You've been captain here for quite some time. Thanks for making it happen. Let's talk a little bit about your experience on board. How is Beyond Capricorn Bering 80? What did you do over the past, let's say, year?
Okay, Bogdan, welcome aboard. It's been a fantastic experience to be part of, running the Bering 80. I took over the vessel actually in Malta. It was almost a year and a half ago. My first experience out in the water was taking the vessel down to Tunis. From Tunis, it was up to Rome. From an operational standpoint, the vessel performed fantastically.
Bering is below 24 meters. Bering 80 is below 24 meters.
Oh, correct. Yes. So it's actually, it falls below the 24 meter mark, but of course it's got a huge volume. In fact, it's the largest volume vessel for under 24 meters on the market at the moment. So that's some interesting statistics.
What's the beam? What is I mean, it's a tri-deck.
Yes, it's almost 8 meter beam. It's just under 8 meters beam. It's a tri-deck. Steel, of course, which factors in to the vessel being almost 260 ton, 2.6 meters. Like I said, the first time operating the vessel was down to Tunis, so we were actually quite light on fuel. I believe, if I remember correctly, we had just over 5,000 litres when I first boarded the vessel. And even as a light ship, it still operated really, really well. She was very stable. And of course, when we got down to Tunis, I believe I took on 27,000 litres in the end. And, because of how the boat's, because of the machinery on board, she's a very low consumption vessel. So I cruise at between 8.7 and 9 knots, and I sort of calculate under 100 litres with the generators included per hour. So I calculate 40 litres each engine, and then let's say 10 litres for the generator each hour. So she's super low consumption, considering that she can carry up to 45,000 litres of fuel. Oh. Yeah, so it creates a very, very stable, strong boat, still falling under that 24 metre mark, which, as you know, alleviates a lot of the regulations these days.
Do you have some more benefits of being on board the full displacement steel boat?
Yeah, I mean, she just powers through weather. I think that when we left Malta, we went straight into definitely 2.5 meters, and for a period, the first 8 hours was in 2.5-3 meters swell. She powered through that again as a light ship, and once we had all the fuel on board, we again fought into some weather going up to Rome. So that was it just shows that she is a very, very strong boat, and completely weatherworthy in some adverse situations where, I mean, I can honestly say, because of experience, other 24 meter vessels, it wouldn't be an option to go into something like that. Absolutely. I mean, not without being extremely uncomfortable or perhaps in danger. So this is a big, big, big plus with, I believe, all the Berings and all the Bering boats, and absolutely this one. She's still a very, for anyone looking at a program where they want to get off the beaten track, perhaps, she works in a variety of programs. I've been really, really happy, and it is a large volume vessel, and you need to have that respect for it. It's not a 24 meter vessel where I could call to the stern of the boat, hey, how far are we from this? It's not about that. It's about using VHF radios. It's about treating her like a 35 to 40 meter vessel, I think, is super important. She has all the systems on board of a larger vessel because it is built for that long periods out at sea. So anyone that wants to get off the beaten track and properly use this boat for what it's built to do, it's designed around being able to handle a large capacity of fuel, not having to go to the fuel station all the time. It's designed around having a proper power converter, so being able to handle all different power sources. And my advice to anyone looking to buy this boat is it can run with a minimal crew. It absolutely can, but it's better if that crew understands what is involved with the boat like this, because again, it goes back into the larger vessel, larger volume vessel, where it's good. I wouldn't advise a crew member that has never seen an engine room, perhaps, or something like this. It's good for each crew member to know their position and perhaps everyone else's position on board.
Josh, how is Bering treating crew? How does your crew quarter look like? Are you happy, Captain?
Oh yeah, come on. It's the best. It's the most comfortable for crew vessel I've ever been on. And I've worked on up to 50 and 60 meters.
Why is that?
This vessel has an amazing captain's cabin. I believe the original GA says it was a library, an office or something like that. I actually think that's a lie. It's not a lie, but it just works so well as a captain's cabin that I can't imagine it being anything else. And plus, the crew cabins are fantastic. They're verging on a small double in 2 sets of bunks. The crew are extremely happy. The chef's extremely happy with the galley. You've got an amazing view in the galley. It's a pleasure to work in the boat. It's a fantastic layout, especially for crew. So that again promotes longevity in crew. People, my crew, want to stay here with me, and I think that's fantastic. So it's not like a can of sardines,
Would you ever go back on another 24-meter boat other than Bering then?
Never. Never will I go back on another vessel. Never. It's got to be Bering.
How would you describe the engine room on Beyond Capricorn?
Beyond Capricorn, the engine room is very accessible. It's, like I said, it's got all the systems on board to stay out at sea for a long time. It's a really large engine room for the vessel. Again, like everything else on this vessel, it's really large for its size, that 24-meter mark, under 24-meter mark. It's great to work in the engine room, actually. It's the engines are, I can show you, but there's large sound guards over the engine, so it's very quiet. So it's nice to work down there, even when the vessel's operating. Very comfortable, very stable, easy to engine. The engines are a low maintenance engine, you could say. The Cummins engines that we have on board. It's been a pleasure, actually. It's been a pleasure. Welcome to the engine room. The first thing you'll notice is the size of the engine room. For a vessel that falls under 24 meters, it's very large, very accessible, all systems on board, and then some. Like I mentioned in the interview before, we have systems for a much larger vessel. So she's a fantastic boat to work on as a captain engineer or for your dedicated engineer on board. We can start with our large sound guards. The vessel, of course, it was concentrated on keeping the sound down, making it very, very quiet and just non-intrusive for guests. And it works really well. It's a fantastic design. These are the large sound guards that we have and that open up to the Cummins engines that we have, of course, on both sides of the vessel. As you can see, super accessible, super great to work on. Of course, when you're servicing the vessel, you can get down into the hatch. You can be alongside both sides. Just a fantastic vessel to work on from a mechanical standpoint. Super full up to capacity, but I believe it can hold up to 47,000 litres, which is a huge amount of fuel. So this is the fuel manifold. There's 3 separate ways of transferring fuel on the Bering on Beyond Capricorn. One is the Alpha Laval, which I always use. It's a fantastic filtering system. It filters out all the impurities from the fuel. It works on centrifugal force. It transfers everything. I spin everything out of the holding tanks and spin them into the day tanks, which in turn feeds the main engines. And it works really well. Makes for a very clean, efficient operation. The capacity in which we can hold allows you to take on a lot of fuel from a place where there's good clean fuel, like we've always done in the past. And you don't have to worry about going to the fuel station if you're operating in an area where there's perhaps not as good quality, or you're a little worried about that. This is our side power thruster system. On board Beyond Capricorn, there's a bow and stern thruster. We draft more than the average 24-meter vessel for sure, because we are heavy on fuel, fresh water, grey and water, separate tanks for that as well. So we draft 2.6 meters. So maneuvering her, it creates a lot more stability. But maneuvering her can take a little bit to get used to. But she does maneuver very well once you've had a proper handover from someone like me, or you've had a chance to really get used to it, get your head around it yourself. So bow and stern thruster, super powerful. She works really well. These are our 40 kilowatt Onan generators that we use. Each generator has an independent PTO, so it can operate all the hydraulics. It's down here. All the hydraulics from either generator, which is really, really handy. Each generator can power the whole vessel by itself independently, which is also fantastic. We've always kept on top of a maintenance schedule. In the past, it's very well documented, the maintenance schedule that the previous captain run, and also I've just kept that going. So all maintenance records are available and fantastically organized. So that's really, really great. So we've got all our Victron charger inverters. We do have the inverter as well. There is a night generator option on board Beyond Capricorn. It's a 13 kilowatt night generator, so it would definitely power the emergency, all the emergency systems on board. But I believe also that you can, having the inverter option, these 3 large inverters, you could combine and compensate anything that the night generator didn't provide for with in the inverters, taking from the battery, converting them over to AC power, and also running the vessel even more efficiently with less fuel and very quietly with the small night generator available on board. So that's also a fantastic. So we're over to the water makers. We have 2 on board. As you no doubt have understood, there's the builder of the vessel was looking at long-term periods to be away from the port. So there's systems on top of systems to support that. We have 2 that can work together, producing 150 litres an hour each. So that can combine to, actually over 300 litres an hour that we can fill up the tanks. So the tanks can stay full, you can stay out on anchor, etc., etc. It's a really efficient, fantastic system on Beyond Capricorn here. We have air conditioning down here to keep things cool. We of course have the exhaust extractors as well, and blowers. So that it makes for a very, very cool engine room. Actually, it works fantastically well. I've got to say, it's never too hot down here. Of course, the engines don't get overworked and stuff like that. She pushes nicely into large seas. It's always very, very stable. You just feel safe, which I think is extremely important these days. To feel safe, especially after the season we've just had, where a lot of boats have ended up on the rocks.
Sometimes being for longer periods of time on board, the engine room noise or general noise and vibrations can get difficult for the guests here. I mean, it's not a pleasant experience. I think on the Bering 80 Beyond Capricorn, it's slightly different, isn't it?
Yes, correct. We don't have that vibration, absolutely, and it's a very quiet engine room, and of course we do have that option. Also, there is a night generator, which also takes the consumption down even further, and also very limits the noise coming out of the machinery room.
Today's world, there's a lot of environment protection plans now ongoing, etc.
Yeah.
And boats over 24 meters face more and more, I think, difficulties in anchoring, in doing certain things. How did you did you experience something like this?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I will look. I've said from the start that's what makes this vessel, in particular, really relevant to the new market. I think that being below that 24-meter mark is a huge advantage. Absolutely, in France. I mean, with these new anchoring restrictions, it's so important if you want to cruise around here to be, to be under that 24-meter mark. Absolutely, in Corsica, there's a very niche market for charter vessels, perhaps even in to be cruising in Corsica with these new restrictions, and also just being fuel economic, and definitely being a lower sort of carbon footprint. Let's say vessels, with this vessel having solar power options and all that, so it keeps this vessel really relevant, and the sustainability, I think, is great on this vessel.
Let's say with the owner on board, are you cruising during the day, during the night, or how do you organize your trips?
Yeah. So we do operate with a minimal crew. So in terms of most of the cruising was done during the day, but on the longer deliveries, yeah, of course we did some night passages. And she's fantastic for night passages. You've got the number of screens you've got up in the bridge. You can have your screens assigned to different stuff, long range, short range radar, that you've got your plotter, that you've got your cameras, you've got your spotlights. It's really, like I've said, it's really it really fits into any sort of program, including traveling at night. She operates really well.
And you guys, crew and guests, they can rest during the night?
Oh, absolutely. I was often wondering how it was at night when we were cruising, especially the owner, whereas the owner's cabin's up against the engine room bulkhead. He said he sleeps like a baby. It's absolutely silent. So it's fantastic.
I think this is one of the beauties of having also a steel boat, because the motion, comfort, and those things accumulating together, so you can rest.
Absolutely. In fact, all the guests have said, for some reason on this vessel, well, not for some reason, it's obvious the reasons, but on this vessel they're sleeping really well. So she's been a fantastic vessel all round. Yeah. It just fits into a very comfortable vessel. How do I say it? It's non-intrusive. It's very quiet. It's very smooth. It's very. You don't really feel like you're traveling on it, and then you're there. This vessel, when you drop the anchor, she doesn't move. You don't need to drop two anchors. I've only ever had one out and been in extremely windy circumstances when other vessels are dragging all around me. This one doesn't move. It's the way. I don't know if there was architectural designs. I'm sure there is into the physics of staying at anchor. But really, this yacht, and probably Bering in general, has really mastered that, and it's just a great design.
And what about storage, like for provisioning and food and supplies, etc.?
Fantastic. It's
not. So you have the possibility to stay outside without infrastructure.
You can leave the dock and never come back.
Josh, thanks very much for sharing your insights.
Thank you.
If there's some questions, just put it in a comment below. Thanks
Absolutely.
very much. And Beyond Capricorn is available for sale. So if there's some interest, just let the selling brokers know, and we are happy to facilitate.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much, Bogdan, for coming down. Thanks,
Josh. Cool.